Hey, what's going on, you guys? My name is the Raptor, and welcome back to another one of my Death Battle prediction videos. So before I get started with this video, I just want to give a friendly reminder to people to not leave spoilers for Death Battles in the comments, just because I was not only spoiled for what the next time on Death Battle was, what this video is going to talk about, but also I was spoiled for who won between Beerus and Galaxia, which was a fight that I was really looking forward to figuring out who was going to win on my own, So I talk more about this in my reaction video to Beerus vs. Galaxia, which may not even be out yet, or it might take a couple days, I'm not sure yet, but regardless, just, please don't leave spoilers in the comments below for anything Death Battle related, it deserves to be seen, not spoiled, and especially don't spoil it before it comes out on YouTube, but just don't spoil it at all, it just ruins the fun for people. But anyway, that's enough of that, let's move on to the next battle. So, the battle that's coming out after Beerus vs. Galaxia is going to be Prince Zuko from Avatar: The Last Airbender versus Shoto Todoroki from My Hero Academia. And this is a fight that I'm actually quite looking forward to. This is another elemental type fight, which Death Battle has been doing quite a bit of recently, and usually when they do elemental fights, or at least sometimes, the similarities between the characters don't really extend too far outside of just, oh, they're both ice users, because outside of them being the ice users of their respective fighting games, Sub-Zero and Glacius don't have that much in common overall. And Todoroki and Zuko don't have everything in common, of course, they still have their unique differences, but I feel like they have a lot more similarities than those usual elemental fights, to the point where this could be a good fight, not just in terms of the overall quality of the episode, but also just the thematic quality of the episode. So I'm really looking forward to this one, actually. But now it's time to analyze these characters and actually look at where their advantages lie. So when it comes to just the face value obvious advantages, I feel like the most clear one is Zuko's advantage when it comes to up close fighting ability and training and experience, etc, etc. Because he's a beast when it comes to up close combat, whereas Todoroki just simply isn't. I'm not saying that he's a complete pushover in that stat, but there's a reason why he likes to fight from a distance more often than not. He definitely prefers to use his elemental powers than fighting up close, whereas we've seen with Zuko, he can fight from a distance and up close, and he's a monster in both areas. So of course, when it comes to up close fighting abilities, Zuko takes that advantage. And when it comes to versatility, yes, Todoroki has his, both his fire and ice, whereas, Zuko's just a firebender, but we have seen Zuko actually, use lightning attacks, as opposed to Aang, who could only redirect lightning, but we've seen Zuko both produce lightning and actually redirect it. So when it comes to just how many different elemental abilities they have, they're actually pretty even when it comes to versatility. So there's definitely that to keep in mind. And one thing that's a little weird for me, I'm not sure if this is going to be confirmed by Death Battle later, or if they technically already confirmed it. If they have, then I was not aware of that. But I'm not sure what they're going to do when it comes to Sozin's Comet for Zuko. And the reason why I say this is because analyzing Zuko when Sozin's Comet is passing by is, of course, analyzing him when he's at his best. He gets that power boost. But Sozin's Comet only passes every 100 years. So while that would be analyzing him at his best, I don't think that would be analyzing Zuko at his most accurate. His power level that he's at most of the time, and that's something that I personally like to prioritize when I'm analyzing characters for my own Versus series. However, I have a feeling that Death Battle is going to include it. They're going to say something along the lines of this fight takes place during when Sozin's Comet passed, during the series or whatever, even though that still seems very specific. But, because they're all talking about, analyzing a character when they're at their best above all else, I have a feeling they're just going to give him those capabilities that were happening when Sozin's Comet is passing by. I'm not sure if I would personally agree with that. It's not because I don't like Zuko. I actually really like Zuko's character a lot. It's just because I personally like to analyze characters when they're at their most accurate, but I can understand why Death Battle would want to do it with Sozin's Comet, which is what I'm going to assume they're going to do, just based on their track record. What I will say right now, though, is that if they don't include Sozin's Comet for Zuko, then I definitely think that Todoroki would be the winner of this fight. I think that his capabilities, with his elemental powers, are just too over the top and too powerful for someone like regular Zuko. But again, if we are analyzing the comet, then I think it becomes a much closer fight. I'm not going to say who I think wins just yet, but it definitely becomes a much closer fight, which again is more incentive, I guess, to use Sozin's Comet. But regardless, let's actually talk about their capabilities, assuming that Sozin's Comet is going to be in play. First off, I want to say that Todoroki Todoroki has the speed advantage. And a lot of people are going to say, well, Zuko was able to react to lightning. And yes, he was able to react to lightning. He's able to redirect it all the time. And that travels at 220,000 miles per hour, or at least, the step leader of lightning. So that's obviously insanely fast. But then we have Todoroki, who's able to scale to characters who can easily react to Kaminari's electric attacks. And this is not the same as lightning. It's important to make this distinction, because this electricity was able to perfectly power a generator, which means that it should be comparable, extremely comparable, to the kind of electricity you would find in electrical wiring or electrical circuitry. And this electricity travels at millions of kilometers per hour. Even if we were to just lowball this and say that this is 1 million kilometers per hour, that still translates to over 620,000 miles per hour. So that's 400,000 miles per hour that Todoroki scales to having over Zuko's speed. So not only does that make Todoroki faster than Zuko just on his own, but it also means that Todoroki shouldn't have much of an issue dodging Zuko's lightning attacks, which is obviously his fastest ability. Of course, though, speed isn't everything, and I know a lot of people are going to bring up the fact that Zuko can redirect fire attacks, which he definitely can. So we could redirect Todoroki's fire to a certain degree, but we have to keep in mind that not only does Todoroki use his ice more often than he uses his fire, but Zuko can't just redirect any amount of fire that comes his way. If it's way too overwhelming for him, he's not going to be able to redirect the fire. So really we just have to figure out how powerful Todoroki is. Now, Todoroki, his fire and his ice are said to be the same when it comes to power output, but he's had more experience using his ice attacks, so there's a chance that his fire attacks, might not be able to reach the same level as his ice attacks, realistically. I think he's had better training or better experience with fire in the manga, though, so, that's definitely what Death Battle is going to analyze. But let's just take a jab at figuring out how powerful Todoroki is. Todoroki can easily scale to characters like Bakugo, who I've heard from some sources is like island level in attack potency. I don't know how reliable those claims are, especially since I don't know what feats those claims are going off of, but even just playing it safe, like looking at Todoroki's own powers and what he's done. Obviously, there's that scene in season 2 of My Hero Academia where he creates like that giant amount of ice within seconds, like just sticking out of the stadium, and just scaling it to the stadium, that's easily like multi-city block, possibly even small town levels worth of ice that he's creating there. And again, his fire is said to be, as powerful as that, if not even more powerful, thanks to his blue flames. And again, like he hasn't had that much not much control, but like he hasn't had that much experience using his fire. But then again, he was able to melt all of that amount of ice, like practically completely, within less time than it took to create it. So that again further cements the idea that both his fire and his ice attacks are around the multi-city block or possibly even small town level. And then there was another feat that he has where he basically creates the same amount of ice that he created in the stadium, potentially even more so, within the blink of an eye. So yeah, he has some serious power and speed behind his attacks no matter what feats you look at. Possibly he could create that amount of fire and that amount of ice in the blink of an eye, but even just worst case scenario, he can still do that all within seconds, which is absolutely crazy. There's even another feat that Todoroki has, which I don't recall the speed of which this happened, but he was able to create like a row of ice that was the size of a mountain. So again, we're talking multi-city block, possibly extending to small town level, possibly extending to mountain level. So that's some serious power he's got going there, and that, is both with his ice and theoretically with his fire as well. So, and again, like the speed of the attacks, doing that in the blink of an eye, or at worst just seconds, that's some serious speed as well. So really we're looking at how does Zuko stand up to all of that, and unfortunately it's not the greatest, even when you look at the comet. Now, one thing I want to get out of the way first is that in Aang versus Edward Elric, which was another fight that Death Battle did, they made this calculation for Aang that he was able to exert like 160 kilotons of TNT, but keep in mind that this was Aang in the Avatar state, which is, the combined power of him and all the previous Avatars. So, we can't really use that as a baseline for all the other Avatar characters, and Zuko should theoretically be significantly lower than that, even with Sozin's comet. And with the comet in play, he was able to do some serious damage to warships. He's, been able to match other characters like Aang in battle. He's able to do a ton of crazy things, but even just highballing his feats, I still, if we're being generous, that still only puts him at around the city block level that he can do in just one go. And again, even if he could theoretically match that kind of power output, after enough time, it still wouldn't be, you know, to the same degree of speed that Todoroki's able to do it. Todoroki's able to produce more energy, and he's able to produce it quicker. So I feel like that really puts Zuko in a bad position. We just haven't seen Zuko do anything ridiculously over the top like we've seen Todoroki do. And I feel like, you know, when you're putting that up against, you know, real physics, that's not good for Zuko. We've just seen Todoroki do more insane displays when it comes to his abilities. And if Todoroki can produce that ridiculous amount of fire in just one go, then I don't really see Zuko having any hope of being able to redirect it. It's just going to be too overwhelming for him. Now, I've been one to say many times that power output isn't everything, because it's not. Just because one character is city block level and another character might be, you know, multi-city block level or even further than that, I don't think that means that the multi-city block level character automatically wins. Power output is important, but it's not the only thing that matters. However, in this kind of fight, I think that, you know, if they're sticking with their elemental attacks, and that's like going to be the majority of the fight, then I do think that that is extremely important. And again, Todoroki just seems to outclass Zuko there. And when it comes to their durability, again, this is one of those fights where, you know, power output can be directly scaled to their own durability, especially when it comes to Zuko. Like, when he was destroying a warship, he was caught in the middle, or like at least close to that explosion, and he was fine. So, you know, that supports the idea that his durability is very similar to his power output. And when it comes to Todoroki, again, like, he's able to take hits from Bakugo, he's able to take hits from, you know, that 5% punch from Deku. So, you know, of course, you know, that further supports that his durability is around, you know, multi-city block level, possibly extending further than that, as we determine with his power output. But again, you know, that does put Zuko in an even worse position, because that means that not only should Todoroki be able to get past Zuko's durability, but it means that Zuko's attack potency would have some real trouble trying to get past Todoroki's durability. So when you have both the strength advantage and the durability advantage, or the power and durability advantage, that really puts you in a good position, and unfortunately Zuko just doesn't edge out in either of those stats. But as I mentioned before, Zuko is an amazing hand-to-hand fighter, and if he's given his swords in this fight, then that could actually do some real damage to Todoroki if he could get up close, because we have seen Todoroki get pierced by piercing weapons, so that can definitely do some damage to him if he gets up close. So that could definitely, you know, change the tides to a certain degree. But again, you know, if Todoroki is able to survive practically anything that Zuko can throw at him, you know, or if he's able to survive just his normal fire attacks, even with Sozin's Comet, then that means that his swords are his best shot of being able to get past Todoroki's durability, which again doesn't put him in a good position. It just gives him fewer options when it comes to trying to be able to take him down. Whereas again, with Todoroki being able to overpower Zuko's durability, just with his own elemental attacks, which are much quicker and they're much more reliable, since they can be fired from a distance or up close just whenever he wants to, then again, you know, I feel like Zuko being the better fighter and having swords isn't going to take him that far in the long run. Definitely not as far as Todoroki having the power output, the durability, the speed advantage overall, and the speed advantage when it comes to just him firing his attacks. I think it's just more important in the long run of this fight. And of course, Todoroki has that weakness that if he uses one side more often than the other, then that means he could like either give himself frostbite or he can burn himself, etc., etc. But I really don't see Death Battle using that against him, because that's trying to say that more times than not, Todoroki would lose because he would use his ice more often than his fire. You know what I mean? Death Battle is usually not about that unless that weakness comes into play like every single time that that character is in a fight. And with Todoroki, that's obviously not the case. So I don't really see too much that's going to be holding Todoroki back here. So I personally think that Todoroki is going to win. Am I completely underestimating Zuko, or am I overestimating Todoroki? You can let me know down in the comments below. I'd like to hear what you guys have to say. If you think Zuko would win, let me know down in the comments below. And if you think that Todoroki would win, I'd love to hear what you have to say. If you enjoyed this video, please give this video a huge like. I always appreciate the likes. You can leave in the comments anything you want to say. Subscribe if you could too. That'd be amazing. But no matter what you guys do, thank you all so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. Please don't leave spoilers for this fight. I really don't want to be spoiled for it. But yeah, that's it for me. I will see all of you guys in the next video. Peace out.